Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The bustling city streets pulsed with energy as Oliver ambled along, his mind wandering aimlessly. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the pavement, creating an intricate tapestry of light and dark. As he turned a corner, a quaint storefront caught his eye. Weathered wooden sign swinging gently in the breeze, the antique shop seemed to beckon him closer. Intrigued, Oliver pushed open the creaky door, a small bell tinkling overhead. The musty scent of aged wood and leather enveloped him as he stepped inside. Dust motes danced in shafts of sunlight streaming through grimy windows, illuminating shelves crammed with curious oddities. His gaze swept over tarnished silverware, faded photographs in ornate frames, and delicate porcelain figurines. But it was a small object nestled in the corner that truly captured his attention. A vintage perfume bottle, its faceted glass catching the light and throwing prismatic rainbows across the room. Oliver approached, drawn by an inexplicable pull. He lifted the bottle carefully, admiring its intricate design. The glass felt cool against his skin, almost alive with potential. "Ah, I see you found something special." The gravelly voice startled Oliver. He turned to find the shopkeeper, an elderly man with twinkling eyes and a knowing smile, watching him.
"This bottle, there's something about it,"
Oliver murmured, unable to tear his gaze away. The old man nodded sagely.
"Indeed, that particular item has quite a history. They say it will change your life forever."
A shiver of excitement ran down Oliver's spine.
"How much?" "For you, let's say $50.
Oliver didn't hesitate. He fished out his wallet, handing over the cash with trembling fingers. As the shopkeeper wrapped the bottle in tissue paper, Oliver couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the precipice of something monumental. The journey home passed in a blur. Oliver clutched the package to his chest, his mind racing with possibilities. What did the old man mean by change your life forever? Could a simple perfume bottle really hold such power? Night fell, casting Oliver's apartment in shadows. He sat at his desk, the unwrapped bottle gleaming before him. Curiosity gnawed at him, an insatiable itch demanding to be scratched.
"What's the worst that could happen?"
he muttered, reaching for the stopper. With a deep breath, Oliver uncorked the bottle. A swirl of iridescent mist rose from the opening, enveloping him in a fragrant cloud. The scent was intoxicating, a heady blend of jasmine, sandalwood, and something otherworldly he couldn't quite place. As he inhaled deeply, a strange tingling sensation spread through his body. It started in his fingertips, a gentle warmth that quickly intensified into a searing heat. Oliver gasped, dropping the bottle. It clattered to the floor, miraculously unbroken. The room began to spin, colors blurring and melding together. Oliver stumbled to his feet, gripping the edge of his desk for support. His skin felt too tight, as if something within was fighting to break free. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and he squeezed his eyes shut. When he opened them again, the world had shifted. Everything seemed taller? No, that wasn't quite right. He looked down at his hands and froze. Where once there had been broad, calloused palms, he now saw delicate fingers with neatly manicured nails. His gaze traveled up his arms, taking in the smooth skin and gentle curves. Heart pounding. No, not Oliver anymore. Stumbled to the bathroom. The face that stared back from the mirror was undeniably feminine. High cheekbones, full lips, and long lashes framed eyes wide with shock. This can't be real," she whispered, her voice higher and softer than before. But it was real. The perfume bottle had transformed him completely. Oliver was gone, and in his place stood a goddess-like figure, all graceful lines and feminine allure. She ran her hands over her new body, marveling at the changes. Curves where there had once been angles, softness replacing hard muscle. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. As the initial shock began to wear off, a name bubbled up from the depths of her consciousness. Leila. Yes, that felt right. She was Leila now. Leila took a deep breath, steadying herself against the bathroom sink. Okay, she murmured. I can handle this. One step at a time. The first order of business was clothing. Oliver's wardrobe was suddenly and comically oversized. Leila rummaged through drawers, eventually cobbling together an outfit. A t-shirt knotted at the waist, and a pair of athletic shorts cinched tight with a drawstring. As she dressed, Leila couldn't help but notice the unfamiliar sensations. The brush of fabric against her newly sensitive skin sent shivers down her spine. Even the simple act of walking felt different. Her center of gravity shifted. Leila padded back to the bedroom, her gaze falling on the perfume bottle still lying on the floor. She picked it up gingerly, half expecting another transformation. But nothing happened. Whatever magic it held seemed to have been spent. "What am I supposed to do now?" Leila asked the empty room. The answer, of course, was to adapt. But where to begin? Leila's mind raced with all the things she'd need to learn. Makeup, hair care, feminine hygiene. It was overwhelming. She decided to start small. Makeup seemed like a good first step. Leila vaguely remembered seeing a small cosmetics bag in the back of the bathroom cabinet. A forgotten gift from an ex-girlfriend, perhaps. After some digging, she unearthed the bag. Inside was a modest collection of products: foundation, mascara, lipstick, and eyeliner. Leila spread them out on the counter, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. "How hard can it be?" she muttered, reaching for the foundation. The answer, as it turned out, was very hard indeed. Leila's first attempt left her looking more like a clown than a goddess. The foundation was patchy and uneven, the mascara clumpy, and the lipstick smeared well outside the lines of her lips. "Damn it!" Leila growled, furiously wiping at her face with a damp cloth. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for another try. This time, she went slower, paying careful attention to each step. She dabbed on the foundation, blending it as best she could. The mascara went on with only minimal clumping. And the lipstick, well, it was still far from perfect, but at least it mostly stayed within the lines. Leila studied her reflection, a small smile tugging at her lips. It wasn't professional quality by any means, but it was a vast improvement. She felt a surge of pride at the small accomplishment. Next came the challenge of hair. Oliver had always kept his hair short and manageable. Leila now found herself with a cascade of chestnut waves tumbling past her shoulders. She ran her fingers through it, marveling at the silky texture. But how to style it? Leila had vague memories of watching girlfriends wrestle with hot tools and elaborate updos. She settled for a simple ponytail, fumbling with the elastic band for several frustrating minutes before finally securing it. As the night wore on, Leila tackled each new challenge as it arose. She experimented with different outfits, giggling at the way skirts swished around her legs. She practiced walking in heels, tottering unsteadily at first, but gradually finding her balance. The most awkward moment came when nature called. Leila stood in front of the toilet, suddenly realizing she had no idea how to proceed. After a moment of panic, she figured it out, though not without a fair bit of mess and embarrassment. As dawn began to break, Leila collapsed onto the bed, exhausted but exhilarated. Her mind whirled with everything she'd learned and all that was still to come. How would she explain this to her friends, her family, her job? But those were worries for another day.
For now, Leila allowed herself to simply exist in this new form. She closed her eyes, feeling the rise and fall of her chest, the softness of her skin against the sheets. Just as she was drifting off to sleep, a thought struck her. The old shopkeeper's words echoed in her mind. "It will change your life forever." Leila chuckled softly. Well, he certainly wasn't kidding about that. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Leila's eyes fluttered open. For a brief moment, she expected it all to have been a dream, but the unfamiliar weight on her chest and the silky strands of hair tickling her face quickly dispelled that notion. With a groan, Leila pushed herself up, wincing at the various aches and pains. Apparently, magical transformations weren't without their physical toll. She stumbled to the bathroom, squinting against the harsh fluorescent light. The face that greeted her in the mirror was still startlingly unfamiliar. Leila traced her fingertips along her jawline, marveling at the softness of her skin. The makeup from the night before had smudged, giving her a somewhat raccoon-like appearance. "Right," Leila muttered. "Lesson number 1. Always remove makeup before bed." She fumbled through the cabinets, eventually finding a pack of makeup remover wipes. As she gently cleaned her face, Leila's mind wandered to the day ahead. She couldn't hide in her apartment forever. Sooner or later, she'd have to face the world. The thought sent a jolt of panic through her. How would people react? Would anyone recognize her? And what about her job? She was supposed to be at the office in... Leila's eyes widened as she glanced at the clock. "Oh no!" she exclaimed. She had less than an hour to get ready and make it to work. Leila flew into action, her movements frantic and uncoordinated. She dove into the closet, pawing through Oliver's clothes in search of anything that might fit her new form. After several frustrating minutes, she cobbled together an outfit, a pair of slim-fit chinos that hung loosely on her hips, and a button-up shirt that she knotted at the waist to keep from drowning in fabric. Makeup proved to be another challenge. With shaking hands, Leila attempted to recreate her efforts from the night before. The results were far from perfect, but she didn't have time to be picky. A quick swipe of mascara, a dab of tinted lip balm, and she called it good enough. Hair was next on the list. Leila raked a brush through her tangled locks, wincing at each snag and knot. She briefly considered attempting some sort of elaborate style, but quickly abandoned the idea. A messy bun would have to do. As she wrestled her hair into submission, Leila's gaze fell on the perfume bottle still sitting on her nightstand. She hesitated for a moment, then reached for it. The scent that had started this whole adventure wafted up, stirring something deep within her. Leila dabbed a drop behind each ear, allowing the fragrance to envelop her. It felt right, somehow, like embracing this new identity. With one last glance in the mirror, Leila grabbed her keys and headed out the door. The simple act of locking up behind her felt surreal. It was as if she were stepping into a whole new world. The busy city streets were a cacophony of sights and sounds. Leila felt exposed, certain that everyone was staring at her. But as she made her way towards the subway station, she realized that most people were too wrapped up in their own lives to pay her much attention. Still, there were a few lingering glances. Leila felt her cheeks flush as a group of construction workers wolf-whistled as she passed. It was a stark reminder of how different her experiences would be in this new body. The subway presented its own set of challenges. Leila found herself hyper-aware of every brush and bump as she squeezed into the crowded car. She clutched her bag close, trying to take up as little space as possible. As the train lurched into motion, Leila lost her balance. She stumbled, crashing into the man standing next to her. "Whoa there, sweetheart," he said,
steadying her with a hand on her waist. "You okay?" Leila felt a flash of irritation at the patronizing tone. She opened her mouth to retort, then caught herself. This was new territory, and she wasn't sure how to navigate it yet. "I'm fine, thanks," she mumbled, quickly putting some distance between them. The rest of the journey passed in a blur of anxiety and self-consciousness. By the time Leila reached her office building, her palms were slick with sweat. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. The security guard at the front desk gave her a puzzled look as she approached. "Can I help you, miss?" Leila's mind raced. She hadn't thought this far ahead. How could she explain her situation without sounding completely insane? I'm new," she stammered. "Started today. I'm filling in for Oliver. He's out sick." The guard raised an eyebrow, but shrugged. "All right then. Sign in here and I'll get you a visitor's badge." Leila scrawled an illegible signature, her hand shaking. As she pinned the badge to her shirt, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was an imposter in her own life. The elevator ride to her floor was mercifully short. Leila stepped out, her heart pounding. The familiar office layout felt alien now, as if she were seeing it through new eyes. She made her way to her desk, ignoring the curious glances from her coworkers. As she settled into her chair, a voice called out, "Hey, who's the new girl?" Leila looked up to see Mark from accounting leaning against her cubicle wall. His eyes raked over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "I'm filling in for Oliver," Leila said, hating how small her voice sounded. "He's out sick." Mark's grin widened. "Well, aren't we lucky? Much nicer view than old Ollie,
That's for sure."
Leila felt a surge of anger. She'd worked with Mark for years, and he'd never spoken to Oliver like this. The casual objectification was infuriating. "I'm here to work, Mark," she said coolly.
"Not to improve your view."
Mark's smile faltered. He opened his mouth to respond, but Leila had already turned away, focusing intently on her computer screen. As the day wore on, Leila found herself struggling with the simplest tasks. Her fingers felt clumsy on the keyboard, and she kept reaching for things that were just out of reach. It was as if her entire spatial awareness had been thrown off. Lunchtime brought a new set of challenges. Leila hesitated outside the restroom, suddenly unsure which door to use. After a moment of panic, she pushed into the women's room, keeping her head down. Inside, she was confronted with the bustling energy of women touching up makeup, gossiping, and generally treating the space as a social hub. Leila felt woefully out of place. She locked herself in a stall, taking a moment to breathe. The sound of laughter and chatter outside made her feel more alone than ever. How long would it take before this felt normal? As Leila washed her hands, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirror. Her makeup had smudged, and wisps of hair had escaped from her bun. She looked frazzled. A woman at the sink next to her smiled sympathetically. "Rough day?" Leila nodded, not trusting herself to speak. The woman reached into her purse, pulling out a small makeup bag. "Here," she said, offering Leila a tube of concealer and a lipstick. "A little touch-up always helps me feel more put together." The simple act of kindness nearly brought tears to Leila's eyes. She accepted the makeup gratefully, doing her best to freshen up her appearance. "Thanks," Leila said softly, handing back the products. "I'm still getting used to all this." The woman patted her arm. "We all have those days, honey. You'll get there." As Leila made her way back to her desk, she felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could navigate this new life after all.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more.